Be promised this episode is not about floppy man boobs.
Whoa. Then I'm leaving.
If I die tomorrow, I hope you hear these words. I ain't here to flip no birds or sip no syrup. Hope the future generations can get this urge. Stay woke, youngin', and avenge these nerds.
Welcome to another awesome episode of Nerds of the Rounds, guys. It's your host, Sebastian.
It's your boy, Law.
Your boy, Tone, from across the hall.
And today we have another great creative series for you guys. We have two great creative gentlemen who have actually worked on a bunch of great stuff. They have a Kickstarter that's coming out. If you guys have not already seen it out by the time this episode comes out, you should have seen it. You should have already supported it. You should already have it in your hands. Again, these guys are, I saw them on Michael Gracia's show and just knew that we had to get them on to talk to them and talk what they are doing. So I want to give it up for Christian and Matteo and James Lines from Fugitive Poems. What's up, guys?
Hey. How you guys
doing?
doing?
Show. Good.
So good. Hang in there,
guys.
Beautiful night to talk and learn about what you guys are all about, because you've got some fantastic work out there, and it was a pleasure to read. And very surprising, and didn't know where it was going.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I'm glad I wasn't.
I'm reading. Look, real talk. I'm reading. I'm reading part 2 of The River, right? And my son, who's 7, is next to me playing on his tablet, and he's like, and he knows what I do. He peeks around, and then he's like, scroll up. I'm like, no. He's like, why is that guy dead? I'm like, because it just happened. And he like, well, you got to tell the person you're on. He should have, used the gun. I'm like, he used the laser. He cut him in half.
I think your son is critiquing our kills.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Oh. No. That's not the way to do it.
So one of our
step the game up for the next one.
Oh yeah, that's it. There we go. Don't challenge them. I think they're gonna do it. But we like to always open up our show with our, new guests that come on the show to learn, for our fans and everyone out there who's listening for the first time, who are meeting you guys for the first time, is what is your origin story? How did you guys get involved in the world of comics? I know, Christian, you're a writer. James, you're an artist. So whoever wants to draw the short straw first to go over this. And by the way, everyone is wearing dope shirts today. So please, who wants to draw that short straw and go first?
Christian and I have worked together for years, and not always in a artistic collaboration. We're college professors, and we have taught together at the same school. So we kind of knew each other. We weren't super close, just kind of acquaintances. And actually, you guys mentioned Mike Gracia. He worked there as well. So we kind of all knew each other then. And Christian had started playing around with Mike about a comic idea, and I basically stole Christian from Mike.
I love it. No shame.
The home record version of the story.
Christian had this great, epic storyline that he shared with me, and I forget, Christian, was it you that was looking for that one panel, or did I just do that? I don't know.
You just did. So Michael Gracia had gotten me involved in writing comics. I've written novels, I've written screenplays, I've written all kinds of stuff. I'm a comic lover. I grew up on comics. I had Spider-Man, by the way, all the way. Favorite hero ever. But so I was working with Michael on a really cool series that he had. And James, and then I had another idea. I had an idea that was my own comic story. And normally my ideas come in books, they come in screenplays. This just happened, and I wrote it. And James got his hands on it. So he sees this, and the next day he comes in with the first ever panel of my work that's been drawn. Ooh. I'd never seen that before. And it was this character, Pamela, walking down the street. And I had said in the script that she's got a red scarf trailing behind her that looks like a scarf, but it needs to later look like blood. It's because it's doing some double duty here. Well, he nailed that, and he's got these mannequins on the side, and they're creepy as hell, and it's almost like the mannequins in the store window are watching her walk down the street, and he freaking got it. He got it. He understood what I was going for and took it to another place, and that really is our relationship. That really is what I come up with these ideas, and I give them to James. And James not only makes them real, but they end up on this next level. He brings so much more to them. He sees this other depth, and our own psychosis sort of plays off each other really well for building these up, which is what you guys were noticing about River and Distributary.
So that was let's see, almost like 6 years ago. How time flies. I didn't have a lot of experience with comics before Christian. It was just it was never really my thing. I didn't have an older brother that read them or anything. I was always into more of like I had an illustration background, and if I was talking about my inspiration, it was always like old rock and roll covers and so forth, and that kind of thing. And I have I've gone to school for animation and so forth, so animation and illustration. So I had the skill sets, but not really the sequential animation skill set so much. So that's kind of what we've been working on. We sort of did I think about 10 pages of that Finis
Let me pull up.
Comic. Yeah.
Right.
There it is.
Yeah, that's that first panel.
And I gotta say, I am a big fan of your artwork with the lines and everything. Right here, it's just I don't know, man. You have this style that it has this. How do I say? This really like 80s pop, this rock star pop. And it just has this real smooth like animation feel to it, because it's you can definitely feel the animation in these still images. Like they are really coming to life here.
That shot of the cab flying in that you got on the left there right now, this is all from the first issue. And there she is. There is so much that happens, and James got it, and the intensity of it that he put into it. And that was it. I mean, that was it. We were working together after that.
It has this cell shading too to it. This what you do with the colors and everything, and then this language. Like I'm a big fan of cell shading, like how the style works and all that. Because I feel like it pops out in a lot of artwork. I've seen it done in Borderlands. I've seen it done with Christian, with one of Spider-Man shows. And James, again, I am a big fan of like what your style and everything here.
This girl and the subway car. So for those of you who listen to the podcast, there's a image here of through the subway doors, pre-pandemic, everybody really close to each other. The guy in the right window on the right side is our main character, the guy with the glasses. The girl with her hand up against the glass is freaking nobody. James drew her in. And I looked at first time he showed me this, I was just like, well, shit, now I got to write a story for her.
It feels because you look at it and like the panel, it draws me to her. It feels like we're looking at her, and where your main character is behind that other lady in front of him, and he's just kind of looking down, doing the thing we're all looking at our phones.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I have to make her a character now. She's already alive.
And the other thing too, it's such a New York thing. Unless if you've grown up in New York and rode the subway, you don't see many people draw that detail, and that's a very exclusive detail for those who've rode on the subway, knowing that it's packed. I gotta hold on to something, and it's a real beautiful. Like, she does become the focal point, but it's a very beautiful detail. You wouldn't know people actually do that unless you lived in New York.
Yeah. Also the fact, like, another detail to New York is the fact that no one is looking at each other. Like, there's just this cardinal rule of not looking at
make
other
eye
human
contact.
beings. don't make eye contact, and you notice it in the panel that everyone is looking in their own directions, in their own space, in their own world.
So you guys didn't like make your start in comics. How easy was it to jump into comics once you guys found, like, you guys worked really well together? Like that first panel, it was just like, oh snap, you have my idea and you ran with it, let's go. But how was it like afterwards, like continuing forward to like have all these ideas for all these stories?
We're working on it. We're doing it. It's we're part of this incredible indie community. That's a great question because we're still answering it. The fact is, let me say, I think that we're incredibly lucky to work together. But before I can say that, I have to say that I, specifically as the writer, am perfect. No, I am I'm incredibly lucky to have partnered up with James, because one of the biggest struggles for writers in the comic game is finding someone to draw their shit. I mean,
Yes.
really is just like, I got 40 scripts here, and the artists are like, yeah, so pay me. And James wanted to draw this stuff, and then we clicked, and our ideas clicked, and this friendship, this brotherhood clicked, and we formed a company. And I am so hyper aware that I'm outlandishly lucky that I've got someone who's going to draw my stuff, right? And not just draw it. He's not being sent the commission and sending it back and being like, dude, this is what you wanted, right? We're actively creating together. Once I send him a script and he starts drawing, the script is now ours, because it says Ruiz, Fat Ruiz in Distributary.
Mm.
His look is all James. James just got this idea in his head that this guy should be a grotesquerie carrying an absurd gun.
So when we see him, and
Are we jumping into it now?
My man's tits are popping out.
Yes.
Like where did that come? Like, was that just like a sprinkle? Like, this guy's so off the end, like, just doesn't care that I'm gonna have. It felt like just like it just felt like I'm gonna do this. And like, where did that come from?
I got to put that at Christian's feet. That was his idea. So it was supposed to be that he's from the future. So Ruiz in River One's 18, 19, 20, somewhere around there, young like tough guy, drug dealer. He comes back through the time machine, and he's 40, 50 years old. So he's had a lot of time and a lot of a lot of time to be gluttonous and change things up. But the cutouts in the jacket, that was Christian's idea. It was just a random idea. He does that to me all the time. And I'm like, how do I leave that out now that he said it? I mean, it's not possible. I can't leave it out. So
he just slides it across the table. You know you want to. Come on.
Look in Distributary in the trip scene where that we got the kids out front of the Quickie Mart, and then they're tripping out. And on the second page, there's another guy with with the suit jacket on, with his tits out, but he's all like buff and looks like a superhero sort of character.
He's earned it.
So
I'm just gonna tell you,
He's earned.
Get your best suit tomorrow. Get your scissors out. I'm telling you, I have created future fashion.
But like, it also adds to the character, right? Like, it adds to what this guy's about and how much of a monster that he is. Like, just does not care about how his outwardly appearance is, because he has all this power and all this time machine under his control, and coming out with this laser gun. Doesn't care. It adds to the character. It feels like you can't take it away now. It's just it's a thing.
Where did the idea? How did it like spark in your head? This book that you worked with James and everything. Where did the idea come from?
So I went to see Deadpool 2 at the Alamo Draft House in Yonkers, New York. Which is where I grew up, actually. Not in the Alamo Draft House, but in Yonkers.
One can only wish.
Very close. Well, actually, I kind of grew up in the theater they took over. We were working on Finis, and the guy introducing the movie was like the vice president of marketing at Marvel. and he was handing out, comics and whatnot. So at the end of the movie, I go up to him. I say, "Hey, I got a question for you about pitching." And I just watched his entire asshole clench up in terror and fear. And I'm like, "I am not about to pitch to you. I promise." I said, "How do two unknowns pitch a comic to Image or Boom or whatever?" I watched him relax a little bit. And I said, "Here's it, none."
Gotcha.
That's where you get them.
Oh,
So he said, "Don't put your baby out there." He said, "What you want to do is get a job writing comics for another company." I swear that's what he said to me. And I just looked at him and he went, "Right. Yeah, that's right. That's not a good answer." It's one of those, well, in order to be known, you need to be known. It's like, thanks. If you want to get published, you need to be published. Thanks. So as a writer, I've been hearing this my whole life, right? So he said, "Well, so you need to get a following online, put out some mini comics, put out some short stuff, get people that are paying attention to you and blah, blah, blah." So that night I went and wrote a comic. Like that night I went home and angrily wrote a script. And I sent it to James, and James was like, "All right, I think I've seen this before." And I was like, "Fine." And I angrily wrote another, and I just started churning out these 4, 5, 6, 8-page scripts. I'm like, if we can pop these out, we can get a following, we can get attention, we have a portfolio to show people. And I didn't know the comic community yet at that point. I was still learning that on Twitter and just trying to figure it all out. But this specific story, River, was one of the first I wrote. I came back to my office and so I do this thing with my students called one-sentence stories.
okay.
And I'll give them a prompt of some kind. Write me a one-sentence story somehow involving a pair of glasses. And okay, I have a pair of glasses. I'm like, that's terrific. No one wants to read that. Can you do something with that now? Where are the glasses? Are the glasses doing anything surprising? Are they somewhere? Right. So that's how I teach creative writing. So what happens is we'll come up with a whole bunch of them in a row, and I'll have them tallied up. And I'll say, okay, we got 10 of them here. Who can write me a one-sentence story, grammatically correct one-sentence story with all 10 of these terms in it? And anything I challenge them to do, I do. River came out of that. Backpack, pants, horse, beard, Dr. Rage, snow, dog, key, and corpse. And I came up with the police at the scene, the aftermath of the drug war in the snow, and they find heads in the refrigerator. And James is like, "Write that." And I did.
Yeah, the line that I remember is he came up with the guy holding his own head. He pulled his own head out of the refrigerator. And of course, being a visual guy, I immediately picture that. The same image, which is page 8 or 9 or whatever of River. How iconic is that to have someone like staring themselves in the face, their own head wrapped in cellophane that they've just taken out of a crime scene refrigerator. It's like, that's awesome. You got to write that. We got to turn that into something. So that's how we kind of started that idea, and then just Christian write a story about it.
And that was a crazy panel for me when I got to that panel. I was like, oh, okay.
And that also answered my other question about, like, did you know where it was going before like you guys conceptualize it?
What's funny is I actually drew that panel first. That was the first thing that we had. So we kind of worked backwards.
Based on my drawing of it. Which is one of James's favorite things. Is I'm like, dude, here's what I'm picturing. He's just like, give me that. I'm keeping that. Because I cannot draw at all.
I mean, like, I gotta say, like, the grisliness of those two comics that you guys have, and like the detail, because we've all seen gory detail, and I'm a huge fan of like gory detail and like, James, you do such a fantastic job of really showing the just what can happen with these advanced futuristic weapons, and you really feel for it. Like when the guy's head like his face comes off, and then you see it, and you see like all the layers in his skull and his brain and all this, and then he plops on the floor, and it's all kind of just pouring out. and then what happens to the other woman when she kind of gets obliterated too. You put so much emphasis on it. It's great.
I just want to point out that the very tip of his tongue is coming out of his mouth. That might be my favorite detail.
No, that is, again, the detail on it. It's again those little, because you could even see like the tongue here sliced, that it's like still sticking out here. So it's like he brings like that whole the face forward, and then
the fabric of the hat, like it's all there.
It's just beautiful, gory detail that it just enhances the image.
I mean, look, if you look right above that at Sutton's teeth when he's shooting the gun there, I mean, that's just James, right? Like, so that's not a thing that it's really important that we show his teeth. But look, those teeth amaze me. They're real teeth and real gums, and that's James. That's what James does.
Even a scratch right here, like just across the face. Like, not many people, like if they're drawing an action scene, you see some artists that they'll do an action scene. This is not calling any artist out. It's just that this is just an attention to detail on the character. He's going through some stuff. He's gotten cuts and all that on his face, his little bruises, and again, it animates that scene a lot more here, and it feels like it's a real tangible scene, that it's just real there. So there's another story I want to deep dive into, and it's a one-pager that you guys did. And let me bring it up here. So it's a story called Backdoor to Paradise.
Oh. So
what led to the creation of this fun, disturbed one-pager that you did right here?
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. So